Morning YouTubers, Len Scapoff here. Lovely sunny day in East Anglia. I was going to talk to you today about eBay very briefly. I haven't used eBay to sell anything for about 3 years, and clearing out a cupboard a couple of weeks ago, and I found a couple of items that I used to have fitted to this bike that I've not used since. So I stuck them on eBay and I got a good price for them. But what came as a shock to me was that when I got the bill from eBay, they'd included a charge of 10% levied on the price of the postage and packing. Well, I only charge what it costs to actually post things. So I was giving eBay 10% of that sum for doing absolutely nothing. And I started searching around to see for how long they'd been actually doing this. And apparently they introduced it last September. And the excuse that they've given for introducing it apparently is that it's intended to discourage people trying to make a profit out of postage and packaging. Well, what transparent and utter rubbish, because if you're only charging what it costs you and you're going to lose 10% of that to eBay out of the purchase price, then the natural instinct is to increase the amount you show for P&P to cover off that 10%. And of course, in order to cover that off completely, you'd actually end up charging more than 10%. So this is just unadulterated and thinly disguised greed. And sadly, that's the name of the game these days with these big outfits, isn't it? How can we screw some more money out of the customer? And they can't even be bothered to come up with an excuse that has any chance of passing muster with at least some of the customers. Mind you, the trouble with these online providers is that the reality of it is they don't want to actually have to deal with customers. They don't want to see you, they don't want to talk to you. They just want you to be an amorphous being on the end of a long-distance internet connection. Now, some of them do their job well. I think it was Jim Payne who mentioned Amazon as being quite good. But in the field of goods, there's an awful lot of competition because Amazon are competing with online retailers. So if they aren't any good, you'll simply buy whatever it is you want from somebody else who's selling it. But these service providers, they get big and they become monopolies. And as a consequence, they engage in monopolistic behavior. And one of them is, if you don't like it, then you can not. And one of the modern phenomena of the internet world is that you've got people masquerading as people they're not. You know, pretending that they're people who care about their customers. I get absolutely sick of the current mot du jour, which is passionate. You see it on LinkedIn as well. You know, someone's selling themselves as a proposition on a social website, and they want to tell you they're passionate about what they do. Well, you know, whoever first used that phrase in that context could be forgiven or even applauded for a certain amount of originality. But it's just become the word to use now, hasn't it? It's just a Me Too word. And I'm so sick of seeing it in that context that my view is now that anybody who wants to tell me that they're passionate about their work, as far as I'm concerned, needs a damn good rogering. By which I mean, of course, that they need to go out and buy a copy of Roget's Thesaurus and use it. Yeah, now Lady Scaphoff and I, we've been married for 31 years, and in 31 years we've got to know one another very well indeed. And it's said that opposites attract, and in our case I think that truism has applied, but not all opposite traits are attractive to the opposition, and over those years, of course, we've learned, how should we put it, we've learned to respect one another's own space so as not to grate too much on one another's nerves when we're doing things that the other one doesn't find interesting or of relevance. Now, one of the things that I'm forbidden to do these days is to accompany my wife to the supermarket. There are two reasons for this, apparently. The first is that I insist on buying things that aren't on her list, which she finds irritating. And she also says that I tend to buy things that she won't eat. Well, but the principal reason is because she says I embarrass her. Whenever we go shopping, food shopping I'm talking about, she says, "You embarrass me." Now this is because apparently I have the effrontery to object to people smacking their trolleys into my shins or blocking up the aisle while they stand there with their shopping trolleys and kiddie buggies, etc., preventing anybody actually getting past or even viewing the goods on the shelves. This apparently is very un-British of me, and isn't the sort of thing that gentlefolk do. So she declines to have me with her on shopping expeditions, which as far as I'm concerned is fair enough. However, she doesn't even like me going out on my own on shopping expeditions, and the reason for that apparently is because I buy things that aren't on her list. I can't say that I find it a hardship.